All right. Hello, everyone, and thanks, Gary, for inviting me. It's really interesting. I've just jumped in 20 minutes ago, and I've been hearing a lot of common issues. But interestingly, I've also heard many different things. So it's indeed a good opportunity to speak to everyone. And I'm hoping I'm clear and the connection is fine. I'm assuming if there's any problem, just type in a message or just unmute yourself and let me know. All right. Before I begin, let me introduce myself first. Gary said already that I'm from India. I'm Radhika Gholkar. I work for the British Council and I'm based in India, in Mumbai specifically. And I work on teacher development projects across the country. And today I'm going to share with you a project that we worked on in the state of Maharashtra, and specifically because we've used WhatsApp extensively. But before we dive into the details of everything, I would like to quickly tell you what all I'm going to share with you. First of all, I'm going to set some context. I'm going to give you some information about where India is in terms of digital initiatives. I'm going to talk to you about the project that I've been working on. It's called Tejas. And in the local language here, Tejas means light, bright, or something that is illuminating. So hopefully, we were hoping that with this initiative, it shows the light to guides basically teacher development in the context. I'm then going to share the initiatives that we had on Tejas for teachers. And of course, very important, I'm going to look at the challenges we faced, the support we provided, and the lessons we learned, right? So moving on, here is a snip from a newspaper for you, for everyone on the screen. So as you can see, it's from Blackboard to Digital Board, government schools in rural India are witnessing a technological revolution. So as you can see, in India, there's a lot of push towards digital, and education hasn't escaped that. There's a lot of expectation right from parents, students, teachers, everyone, and even the high-level stakeholders from technology to solve a lot of issues around scale and cost in India. So for example, in the state I live in, there are around 67,000 primary teachers teaching. So if we have to train them, we have to look at technology increasingly. So there is a digital push, but as you can also notice, there's a lot of initiative in terms of providing infrastructure, but not so much in terms of support and training. So that, I think, is an important point to remember as we move on in this presentation. I've told you a little bit about India and where we are. Moving on to the project Tejas. As you can see the map on the screen, this is the map of the state of Maharashtra, which is on the western coast of India. And the highlighted regions you can see are the 9 districts in which we piloted the Tejas program. Now at the core of the program is a teacher activity group, a community of practice, face-to-face and online. But a teacher activity group is where around 18,000 teachers meet every month for over 3 hours and select resources from a set, resource list, engage in their development, and at the end of the meeting, they're expected to take something concrete back to their classroom. Now, when we designed this meeting for teachers, we realized that what happens between 2 months, between 2 meetings was something more of a risk, because teachers were losing out on each other and losing touch with each other. And that's where WhatsApp came in, so to rescue, if I may say, and we thought that maybe we can put them on a WhatsApp group so that they can continue to share and learn from each other. So there are over 750 teacher activity groups across these 9 districts. And therefore there is, each of these teacher activity group has a WhatsApp group. Each group is on a WhatsApp group. So there are 750 WhatsApp groups approximately. Surprisingly, I cannot really assure you if there are 750, because there were many teachers who refused to be on WhatsApp. They said it's irritating and it can be very disturbing and very time consuming sometimes. So we did not want to force some of them, but we wanted to make sure that they see the value over a period of time. So yes, I'm not sure if there are 750 of them, but there are many of them across these 9 districts. So moving on, where are we now in the project? The pilot project is over. It was a 3-year intervention in these 9 districts. We finished it this year. But the interesting thing is that the whole model has been scaled up to 27 districts. That is the rest of the state, as you saw, if you can see the map here. So the stakes are high, the risks have become high, but the good thing is that we have implemented most of our learning from this pilot into the scale up. Talking about the digital aspects of this project, we gave these teachers an online course for developing their English. And as I mentioned at the beginning, the whole project was based on the concept of peer learning and community of practice. So we focused a lot on online communities of practice here through WhatsApp, Facebook, and Twitter. And again, this becomes important. If you remember the map, the teachers are quite away from each other geographically. So again, WhatsApp became a very important thing for them to keep in touch with each other and know what's happening in other districts. Of course, for the purpose of this presentation, I'm going to look at WhatsApp specifically. But when I was thinking about this presentation and talking to you all, I realized that I cannot really, for the purpose of this project, cannot really segregate between these platforms, because as you will see at the end of the presentation, a lot of these things worked in an interconnected way for us on the project, but I'll tell you more about that. So moving on, some of the challenges we faced while these teachers were on WhatsApp, the most important challenge was digital literacy. So right from email and logging in, how to log into your email, what is a password? And it would be surprising to some of us that, you know, these issues still exist. But what I noticed in my experience of working very closely with these teachers is that there is a really varied range of literacy levels amongst teachers. Like some of them, even in the urban areas of the country, may not know this because they don't use email quite often. Understanding interfaces was another problem. Many of them, for example, especially in terms of using the online courses with these teachers, weren't sure how to interact with the interface. What do I do? What do I click on? And you know, what happens? Is something going to go wrong? And things like that. And of course, these worries came out as we moved along in the project. And the last one is very interesting. Again, many teachers said that they had to type long text and they weren't sure of the language levels. They weren't sure if they were right, you know, in their English. Is somebody going to mock them and things like that? And also around making videos. Interestingly, a lot of these teachers expected other teachers also to share more videos than text messages. And in fact, right now, as we speak, I'm investigating these groups more in detail to find out what do these teachers really want out of these groups. And it's coming out now that, you know, things like they cannot type long text or even small text messages or make videos has been a big challenge for them to share anything on the group. Engagement has been a big challenge. Just before I dive into this point again, you know, the groups were primarily made, as I said, to make sure that teachers have a platform to share what happens in the classroom, to reflect, to question each other, and to share more resources. But when it came to reality, there was a huge problem with behaviors on online communities of practice, such as there were long texts, extremely long texts sometimes that nobody would read. They were irrelevant to what we had agreed to share sometimes. We had all agreed to share education or English related or teacher development related messages, but often there would be inspirational stories coming out on the groups, some irrelevant political news coming out on the groups. And also, the biggest problem for me watching these groups was teachers a lot of resources online. For example, free PDF versions of textbooks or resource books, and sharing them on the group, which could potentially be problematic in terms of copyright issues, right? So I realized that, again, it links to the digital literacy of knowing what I can share, what I cannot share, what is okay to share and what's not okay to share. Those sort of problems. And the biggest of all in terms of behaviors was the fact that they were sharing a lot of stuff, but not participating, not engaging with what's been posted, not even reading sometimes. The second challenge around engagement was understanding the affordance. What can WhatsApp do? How can I use WhatsApp? What should I use it for and what I shouldn't be using it for? And of course, this is a very advanced level of awareness for teachers to have. Even we don't understand. For example, I am part of my family WhatsApp group and I have tried to escape it 3 times, absolutely failed at it, because the kind of posts that go on in these groups are ridiculous. You cannot, it's really difficult to keep up with that kind of engagement. So I think it's a question for all of us who use WhatsApp pretty much. What is it that I can use WhatsApp for? And especially when we talk about WhatsApp in the context of teacher development, I think there needs to be some training for teachers to understand what is okay and what is not okay. And of course, you know, the teachers now say that they simply don't have time. There is a lot of work they have at schools. Apart from teaching, there's a lot they have to do. And I think this is true for all teachers across the world. And this is seems to be an obvious reason, but again, it never occurred to me that teachers may simply not have time to engage on these groups. And the last one is infrastructure. Many teachers of the 9 districts simply don't have internet connectivity in the villages they live in. So that was a huge problem. The phones they were using were not compatible with some of the recent apps or communication platforms that were used. So they weren't able to access some of the resources that were shared on the platforms. So in a way, while we thought of using technology to reach out to numbers and improve accessibility to ideas and resources, it also becomes, these things also make it less inclusive. So it made us reflect, what can we do to improve? So going on to what did we do finally, and how did we attempt to come out of it? On the left, you will see some things that we did to improve the digital literacy. Now, I can see that, you know, you may not be able to see the direct link between improving the digital literacy and improving their engagement on WhatsApp. But I would like to share this because at this point, we also realized that just like I may not like Facebook and somebody else may like Facebook more than WhatsApp, there are, all of us as individuals have preferences of social media platforms, depending on what kind of people we are, what kind of personalities we are. And we thought that we should be giving more exposure to teachers to be able to choose what they want to use for their development. So we developed ICT clinics. So when the teachers would come in for face-to-face training, on the sidelines of this training, we would conduct fun ICT clinics where we would teach them how to log in, and it would be a 15-minute clinic. So it's quick, how to create your account on Twitter, what to do on Facebook, what not to do, what is safe, what is not safe. So we tried these things. We tried screencasts, for example, to demonstrate using some of the interfaces. And we also created separate online support communities of practice with the sole intention to only support teachers who post things like, I'm not sure how to go about this. Can you help me with this? Can you call me and help me do this? I would say is not very sustainable because we could not do a lot of that. It's very heavy on resource. So, but I think it's really important that human touch is very important for teachers to get on board. On the right-hand side, in terms of dealing with engagement issues, ironically, we realized that we will have to come face to face with teachers to teach them how to use technology. And therefore, we created a series of face-to-face workshops for teachers, specifically focusing on their practice on WhatsApp groups. So we would pull out the posts that they would share, bring them into training, anonymize them because we did not want it to be confrontative, and get them to think, okay, is this okay to share this post? Why and why not? How many of you like this post? What are the problems with such a post? We also established guidelines on groups. So we did this collaboratively. We got the group model, have a discussion with the group, and elicit points around guidelines around what this group wants wants to happen on this group. What does this group wants to allow to happen? And interestingly, different groups came up with different guidelines. For example, one group was okay with wishing happy birthday to each other, but other groups were strict about it, and they said we do not want any good morning or happy birthdays to happen on this group. So that was interesting. We also supported the moderators to model good practice on the group proactively. The next point about Twitter chats is again linked to all these points. I know that I'm digressing here a little bit from WhatsApp, but I would like to discuss this point because it had a huge implication on WhatsApp groups later on. So as I mentioned earlier, that different teachers took to different platforms. Some of them became very comfortable with Twitter. And as part of the project, we started having monthly Twitter chats. So initially, I would host the Twitter chats. For a few months, I did that. And then I mentored two of the interested teachers, two teachers who had volunteered. And I got them to co-host the chat later. And they went on mentoring two others. So it was sort of a chain mentoring going on, which means that today I don't host any of the chats. The teachers have owned the chat completely. And if you ever want to check it out, you can check #Tejas for Education on Twitter and check the conversation there. Now, what happened because of this is many of the teachers adopted this chat format on WhatsApp and started WhatsApp chats, in fact. And that was a huge implication. And that meant that teachers use a specific time in the day to discuss something specific, which meant that the participation improved. So that was a sort of a dominoes effect, if I may say, on WhatsApp for us. And we also used a lot of video communication to train teachers. For example, there was a video we made where we sat at a table, me and my colleagues, and represented a chat. We actually acted out a conversation, a face-to-face, as it would happen on WhatsApp. And interestingly, it was humorous. It was extremely funny for teachers to watch what happens when we don't acknowledge each other or barge in and comment on some posts. And through the use of humor, teachers were able to see and confront their own bad practice on the groups. That was really impactful for us. Now, having done all this, what happened is this is just before I go into the impact, this is an example of the WhatsApp group guidelines that we set very clearly. And this poster would be posted on each of the groups to make sure that everyone is on track. This is an example of some of the sessions we did face-to-face. And this is one thing that I would like to share with everyone. I think this will be useful. As a result of all these challenges that we faced, we decided to come up with a series of guides for teachers to support them using social media and digital technologies for their CPD. So this is a free downloadable resource called Technology for Teachers, and I've shared the link here. It's a series of 18 guides, and one of the examples, for example, here is joining online communities of practice. And we use these in workshop form, and we use this in our Twitter chats and WhatsApp chats to make sure teachers are on track with their skills. So what happened? In retrospection, I would like to change the word impact to change, because I don't have any numbers to give you, but there was change in their behavior, definitely. So there was some improvement in quality of discussions. There was a little more engagement than before, definitely because of this. But what was most interesting was teachers were self-monitoring groups. I remember one particular example when it was in fact my birthday and the teachers started wishing me online. There was a rush of messages since morning, and there was one teacher who messaged to everyone saying that didn't we all agree in the guidelines that we won't wish happy birthday to anyone? And they all realized that, oh well, we had decided that and we have broken the rule. So it was very interesting to see that other teachers were regulating behavior on the group, and I think it goes back to setting clear guidelines for the group. The last 3 points, it relates to the earlier point where some teachers who were not so happy being on WhatsApp, moved on to other platforms. Many teachers now have their own YouTube channels where they share their practice. They've started their own Twitter chats, and some of the very serious teachers have actually started writing blogs. So what it told me was that maybe WhatsApp is not for everyone, that you have to find what is your platform and engage more with it. Lessons learned. Now, to be honest, I would like to engage more in the types of messages shared in the groups, etc. But right now, I would like to share learnings from a perspective of somebody who manages such projects as well. You have to consider some risks and some things, some timelines to make sure that such initiatives are successful. So one thing was very clear, that if you have any digital intervention, you need to build in that kind of timeline in projects. You need to be very patient with your teachers to really get on board, and you need to provide that kind of support to teachers. I also realized that if I were to redo everything, I would have a conversation about data connectivity and allowances, if possible, to incorporate in project models. If you could have a conversation with stakeholders saying that, could you give an allowance for your teachers? It's a very difficult and complex issue to tackle. No stakeholder to date has agreed to something like that, but I think it's worth starting a conversation on that. We also had to finally get on board a dedicated social media manager who would demonstrate good practice on all these groups. We couldn't do it ourselves. It was too overwhelming. So it's definitely recommended that you have a dedicated person, at least initially, to take that project off. And this is a very important thing I learned from my experience, that there are often teachers who quickly get on board with digital initiatives. They're very excited, they're very fluent in using technology, and it's very important to leverage their skills and their enthusiasm to reach out to other teachers. In my experience, it hasn't worked, me telling them or our project teams telling other teachers, do this, do that. But once it comes from their own teacher peers, it's worked much better. So that's definitely a go. And the last one is that at this point, I think now that the pilot project is over, for us, we are rethinking if we should be revising our expectations from what can happen on a WhatsApp group. Is it really possible for teachers to share long reflections and in-depth reflections? Do they feel safe sharing what their successes and failures have been in the classroom on a public platform where there are 30 other teachers, possibly their officials? And is it going to negatively impact their professional lives? So we are rethinking as to what do we want these WhatsApp groups to achieve, and that's something that we haven't cracked, to be honest. We're still thinking about it, but it's definitely something that needs to be questioned. That's really it from my side. I'm happy to have any questions from you. That's my email address, and that's the Twitter hashtag if you want to follow what happens in the project. Any questions?
Sure. One question.
I'm assuming there are no questions, or you can also type.
Yes, there are. There are, Radhika.
Yes.
Hello, Radhika.
Okay, okay.
Namaste. Hello. From Senegal.
Namaste.
From
nice.
Senegal.
Nice to meet you.
Yes. Can you hear me, Radhika? Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Radhika?
Yes.
Yes. Good afternoon. My name's Aminata Njai from. Okay, my name's Aminata Njai from Senegal. Can you hear me, Radhika?
Hi, Amina. Yes.
Yes. Okay, I'm the technical advisor for ELT, and I work at the Ministry of Education. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And congratulations for your presentation and for all the effort you put on this project to make it so successful. And I'm not surprised because I've been to India. I visited it some 26 years ago, very long time ago. I wonder where you were.
Okay.
At that time. And I really noticed Indians are education conscious people.
Yes.
So I found this project very interesting. And I was wondering how you could make it available to other people, I mean, other countries, how you could share it with people. Because I noticed so many similarities regarding the issues and challenges you had to address. Like, for example, digital literacy. Although I have to admit that now, I mean, today, a lot of our teachers are computer literate and they know a lot about digital technology. But another problem we share, another issue, let's talk about challenges, not problems, was data connectivity. This is still a problem we are facing in our country. All right, so I would like you to think of ways of sharing these kind of projects so we can also benefit from them. And maybe I would like to stop at the last point, rethinking what could be expected from WhatsApp groups. And so far, you said that so far you haven't been able to address the issue. I would like to hear more about it. Thank you very much, Radhika. Namaste once more, and thank you, everybody. Thank you, Gary. Thank you, everyone. Okay. Good.
Thank you.
Hello. Hello. I'm Apia from Côte d'Ivoire. Thank you for your presentations. Are we muted or yeah, I think she can hear you. Oh, she can. So thank you for your presentation.
I can hear.
Okay, right. I guess we learned a lot from your presentations. One key observation I've made is that most of the presenters have highlighted the fact that one key challenge for all the different groups, WhatsApp group, is how to take the different groups off the ground and make
Yes.
it more sustainable. And this is basically our situation here in our context. After we got this information that we could use WhatsApp for pedagogical purpose, for teacher development, a number of structures here in our pedagogical field have been creating their own WhatsApp groups. But yes, the challenge ahead is how to feed in these groups with ideas, new ideas, to kind of meet the needs on the ground. And as you said, I guess really informative and inspiring, because for each group you need to have a kind of leader, you know, who can actually, whenever things are kind of dying out, to come back to it, to feed in new ideas, new debates, and things like that. So I guess we, just as our counterpart from, is it Mali, raise it, actually we need more exchange over the issue. And I understand this is basically context specific, and each of us need to kind of deepen this and find solutions which are really context specific. Thank you anyway for your presentation.
Thank you.
And we hope that you're going to stay connected and learn more from each other. Thank you.
Hi, Radhika.
Hello.
Hi, Radhika.
Hello. Hi.
Umul Fadlinjai from Senegal.
Nice to meet you.
Senegal to everybody. Thank you for your insightful presentation. What I would like to mention is that you mentioned 3 issues: digital literacy, lack of affordance, and infrastructure. I think all 6 countries which are part of this project are facing these challenges. And fortunately, give some solutions, like supporting teachers. Because I think sometimes it's not a problem of reluctance or something else. It's just because they're not aware of what they can gain while using social medias and while exchanging each other. So we have perhaps to tell them about what they can gain from this, and also try to train them, because some of them have problems. They are not computer literate, and it's not their fault. So we have to get nearer to teachers.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah? Hello? Hello?
Yes.
I think
absolutely.
We have to get nearer to teachers, try to exchange with them, to know their problems, and try to solve them together, so that we can have an improvement as far as the use of social media are concerned. Because it's an issue which concerns us, all of us. Now, our students are teenagers, and they're very involved in the use of social medias. So we teachers, we don't have to lag behind. These are contributions I want to bring. So thank you to everybody.
Yeah, thank you. And I would like, in fact, I would like to agree with you. Often when our technological digital initiatives don't work, the first thought is that the teachers are not doing enough, the teachers don't know, and the teachers don't want to do. But often the problem lies much beyond that. And very few of us truly empathize with teachers and try to give them a voice to tell us why is it that they're not using certain things. I think you made a very important point.
Okay. Any other questions? I think it's probably, as somebody's suggesting there, it's break time. So thank you very much. Very interesting. I think it adds to the debate.
Thank you, Gary.
That, you know, that external perspective. So we've had three interesting different perspectives to kind of add into the reflection from this morning from the groups. And so we're going to have an hour's break now. And then we'll come back and we'll have the three remaining presentations from the different countries. And then in the break, Susan is going to upload a new PowerPoint for us to think towards the future. So got lots of ideas now. Where do we go from here? What do we need to do? How are we going to do it, kind of thing. So that's basically the idea, and then develop from there. So thanks everybody for being part of it this morning. I think it might be a good idea if everybody kind of turns their machines off for an hour as well, and then we can re-establish the connection. I will repost. I'll repost the link, or I'll set up a new link for this afternoon session. So is that okay? So Benin says they have a question, but maybe you can put that onto the WhatsApp group, Benin, because Radhika's for her sins has joined it too, and can deal with things, as is you know, Susan. If you've got questions for Susan, or you've got questions for Linda, they're all on the WhatsApp group, as you know, so you can ask the questions there and we can continue the debate. So let's take a break. I think we all deserve it. Thanks everybody for all the efforts this morning. If we close this WhatsApp, this Zoom group down, and then we'll relink this afternoon.